Hello and welcome. March 11th, 2026 is a date that will forever change how we perceive the cosmos. Less than 12 hours ago, at 4:15 UTC, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter sent telemetry that confirmed something extraordinary. It wasn't a glitch or a statistical anomaly. No, what we saw was a gravitational force so precise and massive that it literally moved the planet Mars. Picture this: Mars, a planet with a mass of 6.4 times 10 to the power of 23 kilograms, shifted by a staggering 4,800 kilometers toward Earth's orbital path in just 42 minutes. That's an entire 3,000 miles in the blink of an eye, an event so significant that it can only be described as an earthquake in the laws of physics. The event was detected by NASA's Deep Space Network in California and verified by the European Space Agency station in Australia. Both stations recorded the exact same data, confirming a mysterious shift. Mars didn't just move, it accelerated, and the object responsible for this phenomenon, 3I Atlas, didn't just pass by Mars. It interacted with the red planet. Here's where things get even more intriguing for physicists. According to Newton's laws of motion, any gravitational pull strong enough to drag a planet should, in turn, slow down the object that's pulling it. But that didn't happen. In fact, 3I Atlas accelerated during this event. For those who understand classical mechanics, this defies reason. It's as if two billiard balls collided, and instead of slowing down, both sped up. This behavior suggests that 3I Atlas wasn't just a comet, it was something far stranger. It seems to be manipulating local gravity fields in ways that shouldn't be possible. If an object the size of a city can move a planet like Mars without losing its own momentum, then we are looking at something that challenges the very foundation of general relativity. Just 15 minutes after the gravitational shift, Mars's rovers, Perseverance, and the new European Rosalind Franklin rover sent seismic data back from the surface. But here's where it gets even more curious. The vibration patterns they recorded didn't just look like a geological shift. They looked more like a mechanical engagement, as if the planet's very structure had interacted with an external force. We are talking about something that feels less like a natural quake and more like a finely tuned system at play. Now, let's step back and piece together the sequence of events. Up until just 72 hours ago, 3I Atlas was just another interstellar object, fascinating but predictable. It was traveling at 67 kilometers per second, a speed typical of objects in space. But then, at 14 UTC on March 7th, the Deep Space Network's antenna picked up something unexpected. It wasn't a movement, it was a resonance, almost like a low-frequency hum that seemed localized around the path of the object. Initially dismissed as background noise, the discovery was later confirmed by ESA's Gaia spacecraft, which found a micro-lensing event. The light from stars behind 3I Atlas was bending something that should only happen with objects of immense mass, like black holes or neutron stars, but 3I Atlas is only about 12 kilometers wide. It shouldn't have had the mass required to bend light in this way. This anomaly continued to grow. When 3I Atlas crossed Mars' orbital path, the telemetry from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter went haywire. The data showed a deviation of 0.4 degrees in its path. Even the European Space Agency's Trace Gas Orbiter and the UAE's HOPE probe, at different altitudes, recorded a similar pull on Mars. It wasn't a glitch. It was as if the Martian system had been subjected to a localized gravitational anomaly. But let's delve deeper. If 3I Atlas suddenly had the mass of a planet, it should have caused massive tidal effects on Mars, ripping its atmosphere away. But that didn't happen. The gravity didn't behave like normal mass. Instead, it acted as if it were a spotlight, focused on Mars and pulling it inward with pinpoint precision. This focused gravity field should be impossible according to general relativity, where gravity is a field that affects everything equally in all directions. But this data suggests something far stranger. 3I Atlas seems to have directed gravity, manipulating space-time in a way that's typically only seen in theoretical models about warp drives. The physics here are mind-boggling. 3I Atlas altered Mars' trajectory without causing the massive energy release we would expect from such an event. It didn't vaporize in a flash of light, and it didn't release any thermal energy detectable by infrared telescopes. No heat spike, no explosion, nothing. The data simply doesn't fit the conventional understanding of physics. The energy required to distort spacetime by this magnitude is estimated to be 10^27 joules, the same as the sun's energy output for an entire second, concentrated into a 1-2 kilometer object. If 3I Atlas had released that much energy, it would have vaporized instantly, but it didn't. It remained dark. So, where did the energy go? The answer points to something deeply unsettling. The energy wasn't thermal, it was gravitational. 3I Atlas appears to be tapping into the vacuum energy of space itself. This phenomenon is similar to what quantum mechanics predicts as zero-point energy. And the smoking gun? The Hubble Space Telescope took a long exposure image of the space behind 3I Atlas. What it revealed was truly astonishing. Unlike typical comets that emit gas and dust, the space behind 3I Atlas was contracting. The stars behind the object were blue-shifted, indicating that space itself was being compressed. This suggests that 3I Atlas isn't just a comet, it might be using a warp space time bubble to manipulate its surroundings. This effect is akin to a warp bubble, a region where the laws of inertia are suspended. And for skeptics, let me put this in perspective. The probability of a natural comet causing this kind of localized space-time distortion is essentially zero. The odds of a comet emitting a 1.42 GHz pulse signal during the event are zero, and the likelihood of a comet compressing space behind it is also zero. These are phenomena we've never seen in 4 million years of cometary observation, and seeing all three simultaneously defies the laws of probability. As we analyze this data, even some of the most outspoken skeptics are silent. Dr. Abillo from Harvard, who's long suspected that objects like Oumuamua might be artificial, has acknowledged that 3I Atlas is far more active and interactive than we ever imagined. It is applying force, and it is moving planets. This is no longer a passive object drifting through space. This is something much more complex, and the implications are staggering. To fully understand the magnitude of what's happening here, we need to look at the transmission signals from the object. Up until now, the pulses detected by the Allen Telescope Array were simple beeps, repetitive in nature. But then something incredible happened. At 8:14 UTC, the signal from 3I Atlas shifted. It wasn't just a carrier wave anymore. It became a complex, high-bandwidth transmission. The frequency jumped from a simple 1.42 GHz signal to a spread spectrum covering the entire water-hole band from 1.4 to 1.7 GHz. But the most shocking part? Hidden within this data was a picture. Yes, you heard that right. The signal wasn't just beeps, it was data. This signal was decoded by the SETI Institute's automated pipeline, revealing something no one could have predicted: a binary bitmap, a grid of 1,679 bits of information. Does that number sound familiar? It should. 1,679 is the exact length of the famous Arecibo message sent by humanity into space in 1974. That message, sent from Earth, included a depiction of a human figure, the DNA double helix, our solar system, and the Arecibo telescope itself. Now, this is where things get mind-blowing. The signal from 3I Atlas was essentially the Arecibo message sent back to us, but there's a twist. It wasn't an exact copy. The bitmap had been modified. In the original 1974 message, the human figure was shown standing above Earth. In the signal received from 3I Atlas, however, the figure had been moved. It was now standing above Mars, and the DNA helix, well, instead of the double helix, it now showed a triple helix. This is no longer a simple reflection. This is an edit. The message we sent out over 50 years ago was received, decoded, and then altered to reflect current events. Not only that, but it was sent back to us. Let that sink in for a moment. To receive our signal, decode it, and then modify it, this requires intelligence. It requires an understanding of biology, of our history, and of our communication methods. If this is a natural event, it means that somehow a cloud of gas has learned to use Photoshop and manipulate images, but we all know that's not how the universe works. The message was deliberately altered. This suggests that someone, or something, with the ability to understand and interact with our signals, is behind this. And it raises an even bigger question: why did 3I Atlas send this back to us? This event is far beyond anything we've ever witnessed. The scientific community is baffled, and the silence from them is deafening. Just 2 hours after the transmission, the SETI Institute's live feed went offline for maintenance, and the breakdown of the signal was removed from their public server. But, in an age of information, it's too late to hide the truth. Amateur radio astronomers had already downloaded the raw data. It's out there now, on the internet, in forums, and on social media. What we're witnessing is not just a natural cosmic phenomenon. This is a deliberate communication, and we need to pay attention to the message behind it. Now, let's analyze the timing of everything. The message was received exactly 42 minutes after Mars was moved. This is significant because 42 minutes is the light travel time between Mars and Earth. This means the signal was sent the instant the gravitational maneuver was completed. It was as if the entity responsible for 3I Atlas was watching in real time, waiting for the moment when Mars shifted, and then transmitted the message immediately afterward. It's a precise and calculated action that demands attention. But that's not all. The second part of the signal contained something even more chilling. It was a countdown pulses of binary code that were decreasing in frequency, perfectly synced with 3I Atlas's new arrival time at Earth. These pulses were not random. They followed a pattern that aligns with the object's new trajectory. And this countdown is not one that ends in years or even months. It ends in exactly 14 days. Let me emphasize that again. The countdown, as decoded from the signal, terminates in 14 days. This is not a vague prediction. This is a clear, deliberate timeline. 3I Atlas will reach Earth's orbital path in exactly 2 weeks. And this is where it gets even more concerning. The object, which was initially thought to be a passing interstellar comet, is no longer leaving the solar system. It has entered a capture orbit around the Sunday. Its trajectory has changed, and it is slowing down just enough to be caught by the sun's gravity. Now, let's look at where it's headed. The new orbital path of 3I Atlas doesn't intersect Mars or Jupiter, as we might expect. The closest point of approach, the perigee, is now calculated to be within 40,000 kilometers of Earth. This is inside the orbit of our geostationary satellites. Think about that for a moment. Mars was merely a gravity assist. The real target seems to be Earth. Everything we've seen so far, the 3,000-mile shift of Mars, the impossible gravity well, the ionization of noble gases. The warp bubble signature has happened over the last 72 hours. But what's coming next is even more alarming. At 8 UTC this morning, the signal from 3I Atlas shifted again. Up until now, the pulses had been relatively simple, repetitive mathematical patterns. But then, the signal became much more complex. It shifted from a basic carrier wave to a high bandwidth transmission, jumping from 1.42 GHz to a spread spectrum signal covering the entire waterhole band. Inside this new transmission was data. It wasn't just noise or beeps. It was encoded information, and it wasn't just a random sequence. It had meaning. The picture it transmitted, a modified version of the Arecibo message, wasn't just a copy of the past. It was a direct reflection of the present moment. Something or someone is actively interacting with us, and the implications are profound. This is no longer speculation. The data is real, and we are left with one critical question. Why? Why now? Why Earth? What is the true nature of 3I Atlas, and what does it want? We are running out of time to find out. As we now stand at the precipice of this extraordinary event, we must confront the most unsettling question: what exactly is 3I Atlas? It is no longer a mere interstellar object passing through our solar system. It is something far more sophisticated, an object capable of manipulating the very fabric of space-time, altering planetary orbits, and communicating with us in ways we can barely comprehend. But what's even more terrifying is the growing realization that it is no longer just an observer. 3I Atlas has entered a new phase, one that suggests it has a purpose, one that might directly involve us. We already know that 3I Atlas altered Mars's orbit by a staggering 3,000 miles in just 42 minutes. This is not something any natural comet, asteroid, or interstellar body should be able to do. Yet, it did it without the expected release of thermal energy or any detectable heat. The shift in Mars' orbit was calculated and precise, suggesting not only an understanding of gravitational forces, but also the ability to direct them in a highly focused manner. This cannot be explained by anything we know about natural objects in our solar system. Now, we are watching as 3I Atlas moves closer to Earth. Its altered orbit is on a path that brings it within 40,000 kilometers of our geostationary satellites, dangerously close, given its potential capabilities. The fact that its gravitational influence was able to shift Mars by such a large margin raises the stakes even higher. We are no longer talking about a celestial object passing by. We are talking about an object actively affecting the stability of our solar system, and it is now targeting Earth. The countdown embedded in the signal from 3I Atlas tells us that it will arrive at Earth's orbital insertion in just 14 days. The fact that we are already seeing signs of deliberate communication from the modified Arecibo message to the complex pulse transmission means that we are not merely witnessing a random event. This is a carefully orchestrated maneuver, but for what purpose? The change in the signal from simple pulses to a complex high-bandwidth transmission reveals a deliberate intent. It suggests that the object is aware of its surroundings and that it is not just a passive participant in the cosmic dance. It is taking an active role, and that role is becoming clearer with every passing hour. The data is pouring in, and it's becoming impossible to ignore the implications. The scientific community is scrambling, but the silence from government agencies is deafening. It's clear that they know something more than they're letting on. Now, let's focus on the critical question that continues to haunt us all. Why did 3I Atlas move Mars closer to the Sun? If this was simply a gravity assist, a trick to get the object back on course, then why choose Mars? Why not use Jupiter or even the Sun itself to achieve the same result? The answer to this question could be the key to understanding the true nature of this event and the motivations behind it. The shift of Mars toward the habitable zone cannot be seen as a random occurrence. The exact timing of the shift, followed by the transmission of the altered Arecibo message, suggests something far more deliberate. Could it be that 3I Atlas is preparing Mars for something? Could it be terraforming the planet, setting it up for future colonization? Or could it be using Mars as a shield for something far larger, something that involves Earth? We cannot ignore the possibility that the object's gravitational manipulation is part of a larger plan, one that might involve preparing Mars as a new home for life, or perhaps for us. If the alteration of the DNA helix in the signal is any indication, then 3I Atlas might not just be manipulating planets. It may be manipulating us as well. The 3-helix DNA structure is not something we would expect from a natural phenomenon. It speaks of intelligence, of design, and of an understanding of our biology. With the countdown now set to conclude in exactly 14 days, we are on the brink of something that could redefine our place in the universe. The object is not leaving, it is staying, and its path is now directed toward Earth. Governments may remain silent, but the data is out there for anyone to see. We know the truth, and the truth is terrifying. 3I Atlas is not just an observer. It is a force, an active participant in the future of our solar system, and it's coming for us. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching. The next 14 days will be critical. What happens when 3I Atlas reaches Earth's orbit? Will it reveal its true purpose, or will we be caught in the gravitational pull of something far beyond our comprehension? The countdown continues, and so must our vigilance. Stay tuned, and remember, the truth is out there, and we must be ready for whatever comes next. If you're as shocked and intrigued by these events as I am, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest developments. Hit the like button, share this video with friends, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss the next crucial update. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, we are not alone in this vast universe. The answers are out there, and they are closer than we think.